What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell along with my co-host Glenn Martin. And Glenn, camp is upon us, man. It's crazy how fast it's coming up, right?
So, yeah, it's coming quick. They're in the building, at least some of them. Not everyone's there yet, but some guys are in the building. I'm sure moving some weights around. And, yeah, can't wait till Tuesday.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully Ben Cleveland has got his wind up under him again and his legs, and he can pass that conditioning test. But certainly we're expecting him to. But today we're going to talk about we're going to give our projection and our prediction for the 53-man roster by the end of camp with the final cut down going into week 1. We will do this a few times, but I feel like
I got it, Jimbo.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on.
I mean, I nailed it. I don't know what yours looks like, but I'm looking at mine right now, and it's dead on.
Well, there's 0% chance I'm wrong. So,
well, you better hope you agreed with me.
So we'll see right now. What we're going to do is we're going to run through that. We will do that a few more. We will do it a few more times as cut downs come through.
If there's an injury or something.
Right.
Yeah,
if there's an injury or I think that especially if one of our guys that's on our 53 gets in that first wave of cut downs or, you know what I mean, as things, which of course would be a surprise.
There's not many. The thing is, it's a recent change. There's not a lot of cut downs like we're used to. So, I mean, have to wait and see. But yeah, there could be, of course, a rash of injuries at a given position that changes everything.
Yeah. So we'll get right into it. Let's start. I figure we'll go offensive side of the ball, then defensive side of the ball. We'll start
do it like that. Okay.
Cool. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, I was thinking we could bounce back and forth, but whatever you want to do.
Yeah, we'll roll through the offense and then we'll roll through the defense selfishly because that's how I have mine taken down. So we'll start right at the top with the most important position on the team, and that would be quarterback. Glenn, how many and who?
All right, so just a little historical context. Yeah. Last season, the Ravens kept 3 quarterbacks, being Jackson, Griffin, McSorley. The year before that, they kept 3 as well, and the same guys. Okay, so of course things change throughout the year, but we're talking how they broke camp, which is of course what we're exactly what we're talking about in this one. So when they broke camp last 2 years, they had 3. This year, only going 2. All right. They're opening up a roster spot for another position on the team because Lamar's been through this long enough, doesn't need a veteran leadership in the locker room anymore like RG3 provided. And the young guys are going to have to battle it out. It's going to be a nice battle between Huntley and McSorley. May the best man win. Hopefully injury doesn't play a factor in the decision, and it's just a healthy battle and the best guy wins. And also, I mean, we're going to do a separate video talking practice squad, but I wouldn't be surprised to see, the loser of that battle ultimately find themselves on the practice squad. So it's 2. It's Lamar Jackson, Tyler Huntley for me on this one, not McSorley. He gets to the practice squad.
Yeah, no surprise there for me. I have the same exact number, and the same guys for the same reasons. So like you said, I wouldn't be surprised to see Huntley there on the practice squad. So we'll move right on to running back. And I'll start off here. I'm saying the Ravens keep 3. The 3 that of course most people will know and I'm sure will agree with. I'd be surprised if you disagree with me here. I think it's going to be I'm going to put my lead back as Gus Edwards based on personal preference. But of course, J.K. Dobbins, like they're going to be 1A, 1B. Is what it's going to end up being at the end of the day. So it'll be Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and Justice Hill bringing up the rear as the caboose. I don't envision him getting too much playing time, but of course contributing on special teams. So I see them being our 3 backs.
Yeah, and just a fun fact for Gus that I sent you earlier, Jimbo.
Yeah.
Since entering the league in 2018, Gus Edwards has gained yards on 89.1% of his 414 carries. That's the most of any player in the NFL in that time. So just wanted to because we love ourselves some Gus Edwards. But yeah, I 100% agree. I think it's 3 backs. It's Gus, it's Dobbins, and it's Justice Hill, which means Nate McCrary and Tyson Williams ultimately find themselves left off the final 53 roster. We'll see if either one of those guys or both find themselves on the practice squad. But yeah, I mean, of course, this could change. I mean, there's still the rumors swirling about where Todd Gurley will sign, if he'll sign anywhere. And of course, if he comes in, this could definitely change the conversation here. But right now, Justice Hill earned that third spot, through his play in the last couple years. And I think he gets there as well. All right, fullback.
So that's 5.
What's that?
That's 5 total. I'm just, we both have 5.
Oh, yeah, 53. Exactly. Yeah, and let's do the easiest one of them all, the fullback position, at least in my opinion. And the reason it's easy is because right now Ben Mason is labeled as a tight end on the Ravens roster, so I'm going to keep him in that category. And there's only one fullback remaining on the roster, and that's Pat Ricard. So one fullback, so we're up to a total of 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree? Is the one fullback Pat Ricard?
Based on how you have it listed, I agree.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Pat Ricard. Yeah, so we're at 6. We have the backfield taken care of between the quarterback, fullback, and the halfback.
Yes.
But
this is where it starts to get a little interesting. We knocked out the easy ones first.
Right.
Where are we going next?
Let's go. Let's move right to the guys in front of them. Go right to O-line.
Okay. The big slobber knockers. Well, let me give you a little historical context, then, Jimbo, if you don't mind. In 2019, the Ravens kept 9 linemen. That was Yonda, Stanley, Skura, Hurst, Brown, Bozeman, Makari, Powers, and Sanat. And then last season, they kept, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 as well. So back-to-back years with 9 offensive linemen. Jimmy, what say you this year?
9 as well. I think 9 is the magic number, not only based on, like you said, the history, but also based on the guys we got in the room. And I think we go 9. I'll give you my starting 5 from left to right.
Okay.
Stanley, Cleveland, Bozeman, Zeitler, and Villanueva are my starting 5. I'll stop there. Do you have the same 5?
Yeah, same 5. And Cleveland, just get on the field, big guy, big fella.
Yeah.
Get past that test. Get your butt up. And also Stanley, he's pup listed as well, so hopefully he gets back out there quickly. That's the presumed starting left side of your offensive line right now.
New question marks there. Not looking too good.
Exactly. So, but yes, I agree. Ultimately, I think those 5 will be the starters.
And I think that just that I'll pass it over to you to talk about the remaining 4. If we both have 9, I have 9.
Yes, I have 9 as well.
Okay.
I think that's a safe number, but also wouldn't be shocked to see 10 because they're, according to my list, they're cutting a guy a recent draft pick. So I have number 6. I got the versatile Tyree Phillips, who's shown he can play guard and tackle. I think that's going to be important. Then I have Patrick Makari, who's played really a bunch of different spots on the offensive line. Played center, guard, a little bit of right tackle. I think he definitely makes the team as the ultimate versatile player. Ben Powers, he's my 8th guy. I think he showed he can be a strong performer in the run game as a guard. And you definitely need one of those guys. And I think he did enough to seal his roster spot. And then my last spot is Michael Schofield. I think that his versatility, a guy who's played in big games and, of course, in other teams. He's new to the Ravens, but a guy who's played tackle, has played guard, has played up and down that offensive line, and has played in the highest level and playing in high-level playoff games. So he's my 9th guy, which means, Jimbo, I have them cutting Ben Bredesen, either cutting or trading something. They got to get rid of this guy, unfortunately, being as though he was a recent pick. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I was really excited about him coming out, and he was kind of like my dark horse surprise pick of the draft that year. But yeah, I actually have the same exact 9, and I think that just this little hiccup by Ben Cleveland shores up Ben Powers' spot. Even though he's only played right guard, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's played much left guard for us because, of course, Bozeman's been there. Mm-hmm. But I think that he has the ability to do it. And we know that he can be dominant, like you said, at least in the run game. Mm-hmm. And so, to have the name of the game for me, and you talked about this, Glenn, with a lot of these guys, is the versatility. Makari, I won over Bredesen because he's versatile. Mm-hmm. Same thing with Tyree Phillips. I won over Bredesen because he's versatile.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day, he's an extremely versatile player. Same thing with Schofield. Like those 3 guys, to me, are more valuable to us based on the fact that an offensive line is a unit. So really you want your best 5. But at the end of the day, if guys start going down or aren't healthy of the group that you have, you want your best 5 to be on the field. So if you can be more versatile in one spot or another, the chances of you getting all 5 of those on the field increases.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I'm with you. It's unfortunate for Ben Bredesen, but he hasn't shown that versatility. And, Ben Cleveland is probably, he's certainly much more physically gifted. Just seems like a much better fit for the left guard position. And so, I have the same 9.
And also, Bredesen, with his lack of league-wide exposure, really only coming in extra lineman situations, no reason to think that he couldn't be slid through the practice squad and a guy that still could be utilized later in the year if there was an injury. I'm not so sure that there's going to be a ton of teams, going after him. Now, Ben Powers, maybe. Like, if they like what they have in Ben Bredesen, maybe they look to move Powers for some capital, maybe a spot.
He seems like a Raiders pickup to me. I think I say that a lot, but he seems like a
I think a team that's a strong run team. Like,
and they're going to run it through hell or high water, right? Like,
they got a couple of good backs there. They got Jacobs, and then they got who's the guy who came in from the Cardinals?
Drake.
Yeah, Kenyon Drake. And then also the Cowboys have been rumored to be in the market for an offensive lineman, so look out for them making a move at that spot. So, all right, so we're pretty much in agreement right now. I'm not a fan of that, but I think, who knows? It could change now. We're moving into a –
And what's our total number now? 6 plus 9 is 15.
There we go. We're at 15.
Hey.
Now we're going into 2 spots that get really, really interesting. I want to start at tight end.
All right.
Tight end is a spot I think they could go in a lot of different directions. They've shown in their past that they'll go in a bunch of different directions. In 2019, they kept 3, being Andrews, Hurst, and Boyle. And then last season, only 2, Andrews and Boyle. So what do you got them doing this year, Jimbo?
Yeah, so this one I have them kind of doing a little bit of both, and I'll explain here in a second. So starting the year, I think could look different than ending the year, but you have to factor in Boyle's injury, the fact that he's coming off the injury. So to me, as it stands, we have one true receiving tight end, and that would be Mark Andrews. And then we have, Nick Boyle is more of a blocking tight end. Ben Mason, I would kind of throw more into that category. He's certainly unproven as a receiver in the NFL. So to me, I'm going to say, if we're lumping in Ben Mason there, I'm going to say 4 starting week 1 or, breaking camp, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's going to be Andrews, Boyle, Mason, and Oliver. And I think by as the season goes on and as Boyle gets his legs under him and things like that, that could look different. But I think that they need some sort of an insurance policy for him. Even if he is on the active roster, what is he going to be? How effective and explosive will he be? And then also they might not want to ramp him up to 100% right away.
True.
Yeah, what he does is very, very physically demanding, right? Like he's not just running, vertical down the field. He's in the trenches, right? And that's a big part of his game. So there's a lot of pressure on that knee. And so I say, you have Ben Mason to fill in there. You have Mark Andrews, and I think they really like Oliver. They liked him in the draft process. I think he'll finally stay healthy and show out and earn a spot on this roster. So I'm going to go with 4 tight ends. They're definitely not doing 2. I don't see that happening because they don't want to be in a situation they were last year. I think Tomlinson is out. I think Breeland and Wolf are out. And I think that those are the 4.
Now, you expect Breeland or Wolf or a combination of one or both to go to
make the practice squad?
Yeah. Yeah, and Tony Poljan is certainly going to be putting his name in the hat there. And Eric Tomlinson, who they brought back, is going to be fighting to get his way on there. I say only 3 in this group. And the reason is I understand Nick Boyle started on the pup, but I'm still optimistic and hopeful he'll be out there. This isn't a guy who's necessarily relied on his, speed or athleticism. Now, I get he has to build the strength up because he certainly has relied on that. But right now, I got Andrews, Boyle, and Mason being my 3 because I think ultimately Oliver, Breeland and Wolf, none of them have shown that they can stay healthy throughout even a camp, much less a full season. And I'm still doubtful that they'll be able to do so here. So I think that, they stick around. One or two of these guys sticks around the practice squad, but I just think there's too many good players at other spots, that we'd be more risk, that it could be taken by other teams.
Sure.
I don't want to expose other guys to waivers when Wolf and Breeland have shown nothing to the league to make it worrisome that they would get snatched up by other teams. Right. So why not just stash one? And same with Oliver. What has Oliver shown anyone other than the fact that he's in the trainer room? So I'm just looking at who I think would get picked up, by other teams. And I'm not scared of any of these guys being snatched up by other squads. So for that reason, I got Andrews, Boyle, and Mason, just 3 tight ends making the 53.
And I can understand your point. I would just say a few things. One point that could be in your favor, based on our agreement in the trade with the Jags. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, and you guys leave in the comments, but it's a conditional pick. So basically, if we cut him, then harm. Right, exactly, we get our 7th rounder back or whatever. But that doesn't also mean we can't cut him and then put him on the practice squad. I'm assuming
that's exactly right.
And so we would lose nothing and still have his rights.
Yep.
So there's also that too that works against me here. But this is the other thing that I think about as well is what if this is a big if, but if he stays healthy, mm-hmm. I think he's gonna flash in camp where I just think that he can do things that only Mark Andrews can do. Not that he will be Mark Andrews, but what I mean is that the same type of things. Where like mm-hmm. Ben Mason, I don't see him even being able to do the things that Oliver's able to do. Well, you could say the same thing the other way. I certainly think that I just have a good feeling about this kid, his athletic ability, and I think he'll be relatively unique. And so I think to me, he's the surprise guy, the pleasant surprise that will earn his spot. Like he's just going to outplay the guys around him at what he's really good at. Other than obviously Mark Andrews. I'm not like crazy here. I realize that Mark Andrews is a top 3 tight end. But
I think though, if you're right, if he stays healthy and he shows out, that would be awesome
hard
surprise.
Decision. Yeah,
and also a really good surprise because you're right. They are lacking, that playmaker outside of Andrews at the spot, and a spot that is very important in a Ravens offense. So I think you're right. There's a chance. I'm just not ready to bank on him staying healthy, 1. And 2, making himself valuable enough to cut. I mean, look, you got to go thin somewhere. And so that's my decision. I think Breland and Wolf are guys you could easily get through to the practice squad. Same with Tony Poljan. And I mean, unless Oliver really shows out in the preseason, I think him as well. All right, so that's our first difference. I got 3, you got 4.
Yep.
All right, so this next position, then I'm really interested to see where you go because wide receiver has been a spot where, it's almost like, do we even have enough talent to fill out this in years past? Now it's a little bit of a different story. Got a lot of guys in there, all fighting for, a small number here. So in 2019, they kept 6 with Brown, Boykin, Moore, Snead, Scott, and Roberts being those 6. Yeah, last year they kept, 6 as well, being Snead, Moore, Brown, Boykin, Duvernay, and Prochet. So I'm going to start off here, and I think, Bateman's obviously a lock being the first-round pick. Duvernay being even a fifth-round pick this year is still a lock because he's a current pick. Watkins isn't going anywhere, so that's 3. Hollywood Brown, the favorite and best performing receiver last year, will certainly be back. That's 4. And then Duvernay, I think, did enough to certainly as a return man to show he deserves, but also every time he got the ball offensively, did a fantastic job and really couldn't have done more than he was asked to do. So that's 5. And if we're going by years past, that's 1 spot left open for a bunch of guys competing. So those guys that I'm talking about, Deion Kane, Devin Gray, Jalen Moore, James Prochet, Benjamin Victor, and of course Miles Boykin, all competing for this spot. Right now, I think they only keep 6, and I think that 6 guy is Miles Boykin. I think he's got physical traits that nobody else can say they have on this team. Obviously, we kind of rag on him when his best attribute is blocking as a receiver, but it's still there nonetheless, and it's something he, obviously does at a very high level. And in a team that runs the ball more than any, that's valuable. And I think that these new young coaches are going to get their hands on Boykin and polish him up a little bit, and hopefully they can build the confidence between Lamar and Boykin, because there were situations where Boykin was open, but if you don't have the confidence of the quarterback, the ball's not coming your way. So hopefully they can kind of build that a little bit more, and we start seeing some more production out of Boykin, who we were both really high on when he came out of Notre Dame. So I got 6, Jimbo, and that means Deion Kane, Devin Gray, Jalen Moore, Ben Victor, and unfortunately James Prochet will all miss out on the final 53, and we'll see who goes on to the practice squad.
Yeah, I have the same exact guys, Glenn. I have the same exact 6.
You kept Boykin as well.
Yeah, okay. I think that at the beginning of this show, the time we started like 410 Sports Talk, that was something that you mentioned when you're looking at prospects. If one of them can say, I'm the best in the room at one thing, even if it's only one thing, I'm still the best in the room at it. Right. And I think that in a team, like you said, that values blocking more than any other team because of the way that we run the ball and the amount of times that we run the ball, I think Boykin is secure in that way because he's the best in the room.
Yep.
He might be one of the best in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And he does some contributing as well on special teams. We've seen him out there, made a few plays last year on special teams. And I agree with your point as well. I think there will be some polishing of his game. And also he's historically been a little bit of a late bloomer, certainly not physically. I'm pretty sure he was born at the size he is now, but developmentally in his game, certainly it's taken him some time where he didn't really show out until his senior year in college, where he did his best impersonation of Calvin Johnson, for goodness gracious. So yeah, I think that it's the same 6 for me, same exact reasons. And it's unfortunate. I know a lot of people are high on Victor and Kane, but I think it's the end of the road for those guys.
And Victor, he's got some size too. He's 6'4", he's almost 200 pounds.
6'2", right?
Nah, I got Victor.
Oh, wow.
You're thinking of Deion Kane. Deion Kane is 6'2". Benjamin Victor's 6'4". So he's got some height, but he's a little more wiry than Miles Boykin, who is just built like, a prototypical, big time go get it receiver. Just has to put it together and show that he can attack the ball at the highest point. All right, so I'm just going to do a quick little calculation here.
Yep.
To see where I'm at after the offense has been determined here and predicted. I'm at, let's see, is it 24? I'm at 24.
And I'm at 25.
Okay, so you're one heavier than me on the offensive side. So let's get into the defense. I'm going to start at a position I think is less controversial than others and build up to the bigger ones here. So I'm going to start inside linebacker. And just to give a little historical context here. Let's see. They have it just listed as linebackers as a whole, but let's see. In 2019, they kept Anwasser, Kenny Young, Chris Board, Ataro Alaka, and man, that's a rough group. I didn't even read that out loud until just now, but yeah, they got Anwasser, Kenny Young, Chris Board, and Ataro Alaka as the 4 inside linebackers.
What about? Oh yeah, that was the year that people were thinking it was going to be Peanut and Young were going to be the 2.
Ugh, that's a tough.
And he went to the Rams, right?
We ended up trading away for Peters in what is one of the best, most fleecing trades in NFL history. It looks
certainly
like
in EDC history,
no doubt. So they kept 4 in 2019. Let's see. Last year they had Queen, Fort, Harrison, Board, and Alaka. They kept 5 last year. So this year, Jimbo, they keeping 4, they keeping 5. What do you say?
Let me make sure I got my count right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4. And my 4 are Patrick Queen, LJ Fort, Malik Harrison, and Chris Board. All players that, 2 of them, of course, in Fort and Harrison that they've recommitted to contractually, and then Queen and Harrison that they've committed to and being, in the first half of their draft the year before. So I think they're all 4 on the team, all 4 contributors. And the other thing I like about the 4 of them is that they all bring something valuable and different, which Queen is, Queen's like your every down guy. Malik Harrison, at least right now, is a thumper, a guy that can get physical on first and second down. LJ Fort is one of the surest tacklers I've ever seen in my life. And Chris Board can do a lot of those LJ Fort things, but also he's a big time special teams contributor.
Yep.
So I think it's a solid 4, heck of a lot better than that list that you just read me. I feel very confident with these 4. And so those are my guys. How many you got?
Yeah, I got the same exact 4. I think this is the end of the road for Atara Alaka, at least as a member of the 53, another practice squad candidate. It's the end of the road for Barrington Wade. At the end of the road for Christian Welch, who I know has a small following and finds themselves in our comments section. But I'm just, I think at this point, they, unless there was a rash of injuries, at that group, then he'll ultimately find himself left off as well. I think that's a strong group, a group that, you could definitely say 3 of the 4 are still ascending. And Fort, I think last year was his best year. So, you could maybe even argue all 4 are still on the way up and haven't reached their pinnacle yet. So, all right. So we agreed there. Let's move on to the.
And he just switched to number 3, Glenn. So look out.
There you go. You never know what that means. Yeah, I think it means nothing. But anyway, outside linebacker. This is another spot that, man, this could be a totally different group by the time just Tuesday comes, Jimbo, because they could be adding someone there. I think, certainly Justin Houston's still out there, and there's a lot of rumors where he'll end up ultimately going. But just some what they've done in the past. In 2019, they had Judon, Tim Williams, Pernell McPhee, Bowser, and Ferguson. So they kept 5 in 2019. And then last season they had Bowser, McPhee, Ferguson, and who else am I missing? Judon. They only kept 4. So they had Judon, Ferguson, Bowser, and McPhee last year. So 5 in 2019, just 4 last year. What are they doing this year?
Yeah. So, we were reading that list of previous inside linebackers and had the similar reaction when I was reading our list of, not as bad, but our list of outside linebackers. It still makes me extremely nervous in that Tyus Bowser is our lead dog. Mm-hmm. Nothing against Tyus Bowser, but he had more interceptions than sacks last year, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to say we are going with 5. And I'm going Tyus Bowser, obviously the first round pick, Udafe Owe, Pernell McPhee, Jalen Ferguson, and Dalen Hayes. I think Ferguson is lucky in that we need help at that position. We're just scraping at the bottom of the barrel right now. But look, I tell you what, if Justin Houston does show up, he descends on Baltimore. Look, I'm looking at right at Jalen Ferguson. Mm-hmm. I mean, right at him, saying there's a target on your back because you got to show out to keep your spot because all the other guys, I mean, I think McPhee's a lock. Obviously Bowser, obviously Owe, and obviously Hayes. I think they're all locks.
Yep.
So unless Ferguson shows up and shows out, if we do make a move, like you said, then I think he's out the door. But as it stands right now, I'm taking those 5.
Yeah, and I agree. But I think that even without the arrival of Justin Houston, I think Ferguson's really on the bubble. I mean, I could see them. They've done it in years past. Just last year, they went with 4. I could see them cutting Ferguson, and where I went light at tight end, they could if Oliver plays himself onto the roster, cut Ferguson, boom. Now it opens up another spot, and at least in my 53, that spot could be for an extra tight end or elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Because he's got to show something. First of all, he's got to show he can stay in shape. Let's see what he looks like when he shows up to camp after that month off, where a lot of things can happen in that month if you weren't being disciplined. Let's see if he can get some type of pass rush going. And also, does he get moved inside? He's got the size, the frame to possibly move inside. 6'5". They got him listed 6'5", 275. Not too much smaller than a guy like Wolf, who is just inside of him. So let's see what they end up doing with him and his weight and his body and what.
Isn't it crazy though? If you look at the physique of the two, how different it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, they carry their weight differently. There's no doubt about it.
And that's okay. I mean, there's different body types, but Wolf is he's a monstrous looking man.
He is. I mean, but look, Ferguson's 6'5", 275. He's no shrimp.
No, but it's the look is much less intimidating.
Yeah, I agree.
Certainly.
I agree with you. And that means the end of the line for Chauncey Rivers, who is of Last Chance U fame, Aaron Adaye. I think I'm mispronouncing his name. I do apologize. And I think there's not a whole lot of competition beating down the door and knocking on the back of Jalen Ferguson. That could be his advantage because he could ultimately win the job just because not based a lot of good players there. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, outside of those top 4, it's a big drop off in expectations. All right, so we both have 5. We both agree there. Now we start to get into some of the dicey positions.
All right.
And I'm gonna split the secondary up in.
Wait, we didn't do D line though? You don't want to do that?
That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna split the secondary up into 2 spots and sandwich the D line in between. Gotcha. So let's start with safety here in one of the most, head scratching positions. I don't know what they're gonna do there. They got a ton of guys competing for who knows how many spots they go with, and this is really the position group. They could go one way. I mean, they lean a lot of different directions when it comes to defensive backs. Just to let you know, a little context, in 2019, they kept a total of 12 DBs, and specifically at safety, they kept Jefferson, Thomas, Clark, Elliott, Levine. They kept 5 safeties, 12 DBs in total. And then last year they kept 4 safeties with a total of 9 DBs. So, I mean, a lot of play there, a lot of different directions they can go. Jimmy, what are they doing at safety?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say they're going with 5 as the number.
Mm-hmm.
And I said this before, but it's a relatively unique situation because Clark and Elliott are locks, are 2 starting safeties. But then, and Levine is also a lock. I put Brandon Stevens inside the safety room, so that's how I get to 5. But I don't consider either one of those our ideal go-to option if one of our starters goes down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to see Levine out there, depending on him for 4 to 6 weeks in a starter type capacity. And I don't know if Stevens is ready for that either. I think that our Darius Washington is the 5th. And I think that of the safeties behind Clark and Elliott, even, with Geno Stone, I think he is the most polished safety at the safety position that the Ravens have on the roster. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's our Darius Washington. I'm going with 5. That's behind Richards. Richards is out the door, and Geno Stone is out the door, at least as far as the 53-man goes. So I'm going with 5. And I think our Darius Washington is really going to show his skills as a true, pure safety throughout camp.
Yeah, it's funny. We're awfully high on a guy we haven't seen put on an NFL uniform yet, but I agree with you. I think it's 5. I think Washington is the 5th guy. I think that, when you look at the group of undrafted rookies this year, if you just play the odds, they're going to pick one of those guys. So it's just hard to look at anyone else but Washington as the lead dog in that group. And I think they ultimately do get back onto that trend of keeping an undrafted guy. And I think Washington has the easiest path to the roster. Not a lot of resistance, a lot of names, a lot of guys competing for it, but not a lot of resistance as far as, proven guys on the field. So, of course, Elliott and Clark, obvious number 1, number 2. Levine, number 3, because of his veteran leadership, the many boxes he checks. He's the captain on the special teams. Of course, he plays some nickel, plays some linebacker, plays a bunch of different positions. So I think he's a lock. Stevens, recent draft pick. I mean, he's this year's draft pick. He's not going anywhere. And right now, I'm listing him as a safety. He could obviously play a little corner. Washington is my guy. And I think it's interesting because if Washington isn't the guy, it's going to be a good battle between Richards and Stone, even if Washington wasn't here, because Richards has been around the league 7 years. He's got a little bit of veteran, but he hasn't done it on the field yet. So he's been around. I'm sure he's had a lot of opportunity to study up, but haven't seen on the field. And then Stone, they brought him back. They had to have brought him back for a reason. What that reason is it just camp depth? Is it a practice squad guy? I think ultimately he is, but it's a good battle. And then Nigel Warrior, who a lot of fans are high on, he's got the length, he's got the size, he's 6'1", 200 pounds, but I don't see it. I agree. 5 safeties.
Nice.
All right. Now, defensive line. This one's a tough one as well. I think, this could go a bunch of different ways. Let's see. In 2019, they had Williams, Michael Pierce, Pat Ricard, Chris Wormley, and Dalen Mack. Ooh.
Pat Ricard.
Yeah, not the
Mack truck.
Yeah, not the scariest group, especially when you consider what they're bringing in now. So it was Williams, Pierce, Ricard, Wormley, Mack as the 5D linemen. Let's see. Last year they had Campbell, Williams, Wolf, Metabike, Ellis, Ward, and Washington. So I'm up to 7. So that another group that has a bunch of different ways they can go. Jimbo, where are they going on the D line?
So I want to say this first. I agree with you on the numbers as far as there's a lot of volatility there. I think they go light. This is a position where I chose to go light because I have the tight ends that are a little heavier than normal, and then of course the 5 safeties amongst others. We'll talk about the corners here in a second, but I had to sacrifice here, and I think you'll be surprised by what I decide to do. But allow me to explain myself. Okay. So Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams, Calais Campbell, locks. Right, they're the monsters up front. Behind them, I only have 2 guys: Broderick Washington and Justin Metabike. I think Jelly is out. I think that he will be a surprise cut. But if you think about it, really not that much of a surprise. Number one, because Broderick Washington, at least, functionally, he can do he can fill in a Brandon Williams type role, I believe. And I think he showed that. He showed some ability. He certainly surprised me last year. But even if, say, Brandon Williams goes down and they don't feel comfortable just plugging and playing with Broderick Washington, if you remember when Williams and Campbell were both out, Derek Wolfe, we just talked about his physical prowess. He can fill in that role for a few games if he needs to. And I think that Justin Madubuike is going to be on the field a lot. So what I'm trying to say is that I think amongst those 5, there's enough versatility and talent that I feel comfortable with those guys. Now I know Wink likes to go in and out, but I think we had to sacrifice here because we have too much talent at corner. And I think we need some depth at tight end. So this is where I decided to make the sacrifice. Justin Ellis to me wasn't enough. Like I like Jelly, but it wasn't moving the needle for me. So I'm going with 5. And those are my 5.
Okay, well, I disagree. I agree on your first 5, but I left Ellis on my roster as the 6th defensive lineman. I think they brought him back in March, signed him to a $1.2 million deal. I can't see him going anywhere. I mean, I just can't see it, especially a team that understands you got to win in the trenches. I mean, if you lose a guy, I see what you're saying. I mean, yeah, you lose Williams, you might be able to sustain it. You might be able to group it together with the other guys, but you got an old group. I mean, this is an older group when you look at it with your key contributors being Williams, Wolfe, and Campbell. All these guys are north of 30. So I just think there's too much age there that you're counting on to leave that group that thin. So in my opinion, they go 6, and Ellis is the 6th guy. But yeah, I mean, look, this is tough. Eric DeCosta's got a tough group of guys that he's got to pick through to ultimately decide who makes it. So before we get into corner, I'm going to go special teams. I think it's the same for both of us. It's Cook, Tucker, and Nick Moore as the 3 guys, the punter, the kicker, the long snapper. Is that in agreement there,
Yep.
Jimbo? Okay,
Yep.
No surprises. The only surprise really came when they decided not to bring back
Morgan Cox.
Morgan Cox, who's been the long
Just
time.
a financial thing at that point.
Yeah, I mean, looking to save and pinch pennies anywhere possible, but still surprised to see him break up the Wolfpack, which has been so successful for many years now. But let's get into corner, because that's another group that I think they could go many different directions. Let's see. In 2019, they had a pretty good group in Humphrey, Smith, Carr, Averett, Cyrus Jones, Justin Bethel, and Iman Marshall. That's 7 guys. Now, of course, 2 of those guys were mainly on the team for their special teams, with Cyrus Jones being our primary return guy as a punt returner, and then Justin Bethel being one of, if not the best special teamer in the league. So they kept 7, went pretty heavy 2 years ago. Last year, just 5. They had Humphrey, Peters, Jimmy, Tavon, and Anthony Averett as their 5th guy. So, Jimbo, what are they going with this year?
Yeah, so I think the magic number here is 6, and this is another reason why I had to go light at D-line. So I think it's Peters, Humphrey, Jimmy. So Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith, Tavon Young. So that's 4. Anthony Averett played himself into a roster spot. I don't think there's any way they can get rid of Anthony Averett and Sean Wade. Wade. So the way that Sean Wade is the perfect Tavon Young in waiting, right? Like he is the perfect insurance policy for him based on his ability, based on the fact that he excelled in college while playing in the slot and Tavon Young's injury history. So if he can do so, then, even if Tavon goes down, Marlon can still play in a spot. Peters can play in a spot, and we still have Jimmy out there as our, utility guy, if you will. So yeah, I think it's 6. I think that these guys are too talented to make it anything less than 6. And like I said, that's why I figured at the end of the day, I chose Averett over Justin Ellis. So yeah, those are my 6.
You mean you chose Averett over who?
Justin Ellis. Like in that I had to go light on D-line because I knew I wanted to keep Averett. So it was really about Josh Oliver and Averett over Ellis at the end of the day.
And I kept the exact same 6. And I think the reason is Humphrey obviously is a guy who can not just play inside or outside, but can do both at a Pro Bowl level. Yeah. So, you love that. Peters, Pro Bowl outside corner. Haven't seen a ton of him in the slot. Gets his job done on the outside. Tavon Young, the ultimate slot. Wade, a guy who can kind of do both. He's done both to varying degrees of success in college, but done both and could do both. Humphrey is a guy I think they want to keep on the outside, but they're fine with putting him on the inside because he's a Pro Bowler at both. Anthony Averett, you're right. He's a monster. I think that he's one of the more underrated corners, and I think he could end up getting paid very well by another team next season because, I mean, he showed out. And if there was an injury to Tavon forcing Marlon back in, I'd be very confident having Averett out on the outside if need be. So it's really – and then Sean Wade, obviously he's not going anywhere. And Jimmy Smith, one of the most underrated players league-wide. When he's playing, our defense is just better. It's just far better. He can do everything on the defensive side. Still one of the most physically gifted
I think he's the only corner. I think we have the two most physically gifted corners in the league. Two of the top three, right? Like whatever order you want to put him. But I think Jimmy Smith, except for his age, but physical gifts, I would say that it's Humphrey, him, Smith, and who's the kid from the Rams? Ramsey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think that we have two of them. Jimmy Smith is older, but like you said, I mean, he's so physically gifted as a player. It's just incredible.
And smart. I mean, just incredibly smart. Been around, can do everything, and one of the coach's favorites. So, all right, well, that's our 53. Now, things can change. I mean, they bring in Justin Houston. All of a sudden, it's different. They bring in Todd Gurley. Bye-bye Justice Hill. There's a lot of different things, injuries, a rash of injuries at a specific
or bye-bye
position.
Oliver and you keep Hill, you run with 4 again. I mean,
you could do that as well. I mean, there's a lot of different things they could do, but it's going to be one of the most interesting cut times of recent memory because there's really not a position you can look at and go, well, it's a guarantee this. It's other than like fullback. I mean, there's not a lot of positions you can guarantee you can predict how many and who those guys are. But let us know what you guys think. Are we way off? Did we miss a guy? Is there a guy that you're saying, man, you guys are missing the boat on this young man? He's making the squad. Or do you agree with us? Are we dead on? I know I'm dead on. Jimbo and I so basically our main disagreement is I have Ellis and you have Oliver. Is that our only disagreement on the whole roster?
If I'm not mistaken, I think that those are really the two, right? Like I think Oliver's I just have a good feeling about this kid.
I got high hopes on him. Believe me, I wish he takes over.
I understand the health point. Like that's just, you can't control that sometimes, right?
You can't. And I think Ellis is just. I mean, I think he's a guy that I think the Ravens value.
No push, though. I mean, he'll hold his ground, but he gets no push.
He's Brandon Williams.
Oh, he's not Brandon Williams. He's not.
Brandon Williams. All right, I know I'm hard on Brandon a little bit. I'm a little hard on Brandon, but look, he can eat up 2 blockers. But look, here's all I know. I'm going to be dead on. You're going to be one guy off.
Oh, God.
And let us know what you guys think, and we'll look forward to working with you or talking with you in the comments, and we'll talk soon.